preparing to live stream the meeting. Okay. All right. I think that we are we on? Yeah, stop live. Okay. All right, hopefully this works. Okay. Good morning, one and all. Actually, what? All right, so last week we left off, we were talking about making mistakes in the Amidah of Shabbos. So, it's best to avoid. Start with that. But
best not to make mistakes, you're saying?
Best to get it right. But if we get it wrong, we should know what to do. And unfortunately, as maybe we can all relate to, at times we definitely can allow ourselves to start the weekday Shemona Esrei on a Friday night, and maybe we catch ourselves. Now the question today that we're going to deal with is, what do I do if I catch myself at a particularly interesting juncture? So let's just reread Sif Beis, and then we'll take a look at the comments of the Mishnah Berurah that we didn't get to. And then Sif Gimel will talk about making a mistake at a particular juncture that will be very. Some of you might roll your eyes at me, but I'm just the messenger. Okay, all right. Sif Beis. In my edition, it says Mem Gimel. Actually, the copies are also So this is a Mem Gimel and Siman Reish Samech. Okay, Chai. Yeah, at the top it says Zion too, but yeah, you're here.
Is it mine or is it? Are you?
Oh, this is an old. This is an oldie.
Yeah, that's looking.
Right, bring old packets here. Oh, this is, you have to turn the page. Sorry. You have to turn the page. Yeah.
Reish Zayin Chet.
Reish Samech.
Samech.
Yeah.
Reish Samech.
Yeah, you have to turn the page here. The packet included the old. Yeah, the old.
Well, that sounds like what you were talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the Siman Katan, Rav?
Sif Katan base. So Reish Samech, Sif base. Sif base. Sorry. Sif Katan we'll get to in a minute, but Sif base. Okay, the Shulchan Aruch says in Tavis Chil Tfilas Chol Gomeros Bracha Shnizkar Ba Shetau Maskal Shel Shabbos. Okay, so if you make a mistake, if you err, and you begin the weekday Shemona Esrei, which really only starts when you get to Atachonen, okay, then you should complete it. It meaning the bracha that you were mentioning, the bracha Shnizkar Ba, which you were in the midst of it. The shita where you made the mistake, and after you finish that bracha, and you have obviously the realization, you then begin the bracha that is in the middle section of Shabbos. There is only one bracha, and you would then just start, at the beginning of it. That is the directive here from the Shulchan Aruch.
When you say gomer, that means
you finish that bracha. No. Ota. The bracha, right? You finish that bracha. So if you're in the middle of Slach Lanu and you go Slach Lanu and you're like, oops, I'm just having heartburn and I didn't actually just do like this on Shabbos because it's embarrassing. So you finish the bracha of Chanun Hamabeli Sloach, and then you will begin it's Friday night, so you'll begin Takitashta.
So you can go past that.
Yeah,
it just depends on how far on your own planet you are.
Exactly, it depends how much of a daydream you're in. You could keep going.
Yes, you could go past because I thought before it was only the first.
No. It could be because you could look. Yeah,
but that works with Shabbos too.
I'm only speaking from theoretical experience, but there are times when a human being can keep going and you can keep going and going and
it's autopilot.
You've turned on the autopilot. You're sitting back in the chair, metaphorically speaking, and you're just going. And if you never have the realization, well, we're going to talk about that in Sif Katan, in Sif Dalet. What happens if you daven a complete week of Shemona Esrei and you had no recollection at all?
You have to repeat it.
You're going to have to repeat the Shemona Esrei altogether. If you are able to stick Shabbos in there at one point, then we'll save you. But but otherwise your doesn't count. But so here, if you remember, you finish the bracha that you're on, you go then continue with whatever the weekday, whatever the Shabbos Shmona Esrei is at that time. There are different versions based on whether it's Ma'ariv, Shabbos, or Mincha. So you'll then go over to that Shmona Esrei, that middle bracha, and begin from the beginning of that. Yeah, Simeon, the question.
What's interesting here is even if you recollect that you're in the middle of a weekday bracha on Shabbos, you finish that bracha, even though it's a long bracha, you finish that bracha before switching back to the appropriate Shmona Esrei.
That's correct. Yes, the Mishnah Berurah is going to tell us why in a moment, but it is it's a little puzzling. It's not a wrong bracha, right? It's exactly. We're going to talk about the Mishnah.
Right.
The Mishnah Berurah is going to give us a very clear explanation in a moment. So hang tight. We'll unlock the mystery. So the Shulchan Aruch, back up on top, he continues here. Lo shna nizkar b'birchas atachon. This goes to your question, Bruce, a moment ago. This doesn't matter whether you have the realization. Oh, it's Shabbos. I'm saying the wrong Shmona Esrei now. I can have that realization at Tachonen, right? Lo shna nizkar b'bracha achas meishar habrachos on the page, or on the other brachos. I could be in the middle of Shema Koleinu and have the realization. Bein be'arvis, bein b'shachris, musaf u'mincha. Doesn't matter. Any of the tefillos of Shabbos, according to this first opinion, are the rule stays the same, that I finish the bracha and then I go back to the beginning of the middle bracha. Now, v'yesh omrim, there are those that say that the musaf posek afilu be'emtza bracha. If I'm in the middle of musaf, davening musaf, and I start at tachonen la'adam dat, shouldn't have said that. So, according to the first opinion, I finish the bracha. I go through Baruch Atah Hashem, Chonein Hadat, and then I can go to Tikanta Shabbat. I don't know how it starts for the Saradim. There's also Tikanta Shabbat, right, Vijay? Yeah. Okay, so, but the second opinion says, no, if I'm in Musaf, there's a different rule. The rule is that I stop right there when I remember. I could be in the middle of the bracha, I stop and I start Tikanta Shabbat. Okay, why is there a difference here potentially? So let's unlock all these. Let's answer all these questions. Let's go to Sif Katan Beis in the Mishnah Berurah. You got to turn back the page. This goes to the question of, why do I complete the bracha? In general, why am I completing the bracha? If it's not the right bracha. In other scenarios, if I catch myself making the wrong bracha, I don't finish the bracha. Unless, also the scenario, but if I'm in the middle of after the chuppah and I'm making the bracha for the Erusin, and I catch myself making the bracha that you're supposed to make when you're visiting the cemetery once if you haven't gone for 30 days, excuse me. So I stop myself. What am I'm not finishing a bracha that I should be making. So why here am I making this bracha? So he says, because by the letter of the law, by the dinhu, right? By the letter of the law, I am if I want to daven yudches brachos, I can. Or better yet, let me be more careful in the translation. The word boy can need want or ask here. I actually don't think it means want. I think it actually means need, because on Shabbos I also need to daven, like on the weekdays. You think I don't need knowledge? I don't need health. I don't need redemption. I need all these things on Shabbos too. It's not irrelevant. I need I need Hashem to forgive me. I need all these things. What doesn't just because it's Shabbos doesn't mean I don't need them. So the boy lives taluye. Taluye is the Aramaic word for davening. Okay, for halel. So I need to daven on Shabbos. The yudches brachos, like on the weekday, lahaskir kedushas hayom. But what should I really have done? What should the law have been? I should have really davened the regular Shema say. Ulahaskir kedushas hayom ba'avoda, and then the bracha of avoda, which is we most of us probably know it as ritzei. In ritzei, where we talk about the avoda, that's where Hashem should return the avoda of the Beis Hamikdash or techazena, and we should see it again. In that bracha, I should have mentioned the holiness of Shabbos, like what? Kamo Rosh Chodesh. That's where we had Yalav Yavo. Uvachulo Shamoid. I had Yalav Yavo for Cholamoid in that bracha. Right? By the way, it's Cholamoid. It's a special day. Sukkot, Pesach. And yet, we would say a regular weekday Shemona Esrei, not on the Yom Tovim. We'll talk about that. It's the same reason. But on Chol Hamoed, I just mentioned it in Ritzei. So why don't I say a regular Shemona Esrei and Ritzei? I say a special paragraph for Shabbos, like, by the way, benching, where we add a special paragraph in, well, in the same spot where we would do Yalav Yavo in the benching. So he says here, "V'rak mishum kvod Shabbos," but only because of the honor of Shabbos. Lo atrachu Rabbanon, the rabbis didn't want to cause a burden us. V'tiknu bracha achas, and so they established one bracha in the middle section of the Shmona of the Amidah. Well, v'tiknu bracha achas emsois l'Shabbos for Shabbos. So
yeah, but the idea is that because it's very different, but different. So how did they say that you want to just add one bracha? You just said it in the middle, but they did the whole brachot is very different.
The whole middle section
they replaced the whole middle. Why? Because so here he's saying they didn't want to burden us. Now, why did they want to burden us? They didn't want to burden us with asking for requests on Shabbos. They said, take a day where you don't ask for things. Take a breath. Take it. I don't want to put words in the mouth of the Chachamim, but they're saying it's not saying that Hashem won't take care of your needs. You're not on what to ask for, but on Shabbos, try not to ask for your needs. Try to enjoy this day as it is, so without thinking about what we don't have.
That's consistent with stuff.
Yes, we don't say anything that's like a tachanun on Shabbos. We don't have, in general, we actually try to not engage in requests. In general, I talked about last week that Mishaberach B'cholim. Of course, we said Mishaberach B'cholim, because if you didn't say Mishaberach B'cholim, the rabbis would be out of a job.
Yeah, but it sounds from what we've learned all our lives is that you really shouldn't be doing it.
Of course, Of course they shouldn't, but they do it because that's an old standing minhag. Now, if a person is in, God forbid, life-threatening situation, of course you should daven for them, and that's why I don't think that anyone has had any hesitation. If the Rabbanim, I've never heard any hesitation about saying Tehillim on Shabbos and davening and saying Yishaberach Chaylet Sahal Mishaberach B'Shvui. They're mamish constant danger. So if a person is in a difficult scenario, a difficult situation, of course you should daven for their refuah. You could always say
to him.
But
you're not sure from doing it.
No, 100%. It's just Tanakh. But in the sense of if let's say there's just the Mishaberach tefillah itself, Mishaberach. If there was really no reason to daven for a particular person, as I think I mentioned to you once, when I was in high school, I broke my arm, and I don't know. I went to daven Sunday, a weekday, whatever, and I had a cast and whatever. So say Mishaberach. It wasn't Shabbos. So on Shabbos, you shouldn't say Mishaberach. That's because I was going to heal. I was going to be okay. Like that's on Shabbos we don't ask for needs unless it's something that's desperate.
We do say on Mishaberach leParnasah. When on Aliyah Torah, a lot of places.
Oh yeah, many rabbanim don't love it.
And Yikum Purkan also has.
Yeah.
So
look,
we do that.
The truth is that this also explains that there was the only one who would benching on Shabbos would go past Aliyah Chesrei, because the rest of it, the Harach, not a bracha, and they're all requests. Right. And so there are some who won't say past Aliyah Chesrei in one shot. So okay, that's I justify that thing. I can part of the matbeya of benching. So it did change over the years. Times of the Gemara there was nothing past the fourth bracha. But anyway, it's
the purpose of inserting a bracha in the middle of the ego. Which is to contemplate holiness of the day
of Shabbos
and the need of the Jewish people to be special in kind of like testifying to God's greatness in creating the universe.
Yes.
If your brain is going in that direction, how do you start thinking of your own needs for Parnasa?
Right. The idea is that Shabbos is supposed to be a Me'ein Olam Haba type of experience where you're in a different
your brain in this lofty direction. How can you do that? After you spend
6 days toilet.
But half of asking for your.
Exactly. Simeon, go ahead. What was
Yes, Rob, it's very nice that Midei Rabbanan, they want to avoid the tircha of the recitation of additional tefillot that they really don't, they should do, but they want to give them a break. This idea of letting us off the hook for tircha is inconsistent with everything that we learned before. For example, picking up money that we find in the street, or many things on Shabbos. He accidentally wearing the tefillin, you must run. There's no such concern that manifested itself at any point previously, and now all of a sudden the big concern is the tircha of saying a couple of extra paragraphs.
I think
Moreover, you had taught that on Shabbos we're not supposed to be asking for certain things, personal things, whatever. It's inappropriate on Shabbos. So all that is renders that inconsistent with our previous learning.
So I'll respond that in the previous like siman that we were learning about the difficult situation when Shabbos starts, you're caught somewhere. Those are we are trying to avoid isurim d'oraisa, and so it's a different ball game. Yes, we'll get to it at a certain point that you're supposed to not run on Shabbos. If you're unless there's a reason that you're running something you're running towards, and there are things that you're not supposed to do that so that they feel more like Shabbos, but it's not mishum tircha. Those what we were discussing before, because it was a totally different calculation. We're trying to avoid biblical laws being violated, and so the rabbis are trying to steer us in the right direction. Here, it did say, Mishnah Berurah said, Lo atrachuhu rabbanon. It's the rabbis who didn't want to be matriach us. It's not because there was a tircha for us to say, especially the pace at which the Shemona Esrei has said in most schools is, you're talking about an extra 2 minutes? It's not that fast. It's not that long. It's an extra 2 minutes. It's not the tircha of the brachos. It's that the rabbis didn't want to be matriach us, to be thinking about our deeds on Shabbos. Lo atrachuhu rabbanan. They said, you don't want to be burdening you to be thinking about how you need to be davening for this and davening for that, and your brain is, I need more money. My business had a terrible week. Did you see the stock market plunge 1,000 points this week? My heart dropped. These are the things that we don't want to think about on Shabbos. So the rabbis didn't want to burden us with it. Lo atrachuhu rabbanan. They didn't want us to burden with all the needs and the weekday thinking. And they said, you know what? Let's just have a bracha about the sanctity of Shabbos and call it a day. It's be in a Shabbos state of mind. Hopefully that makes sense.
Okay.
So let's keep going here, though.
We don't burden ourselves so fast. It's kind of burden.
So on Shabbos we have time to think about it. That's the problem.
Skip those little 13 brachas. How long we spend with those 13 brachas on it?
Yeah, but it's not the time. It's the stress that causes you to think about some of those things.
But thinking about it, that people who really think about it, it's really tircha. It really sets them.
They ain't right for us. They don't think we just say it like on autopilot. Until we get to this gimel, we'll get to autopilot.
You're a quicker study, basically, but we can do it faster. And
so
comprehend.
The Mishnah Berurah here ends the comment by saying, and therefore, this goes back to our point now, if you, after the fact, you began a bracha, that's a weekday bracha. Gomra, finish it. Because by the letter of the law, there's nothing wrong with saying a bracha on Shabbos. It's just the rabbis didn't want you to be thinking like that on Shabbos. But by the letter of the law, it is fitting to say one of the middle brachos of the Shemona Esrei. And then after you finish that bracha, you'll begin the one that is uniquely crafted for Shabbos. Okay.
Wait.
Yeah.
You are on autopilot and you find yourself.
There was no tircha there. You were just going. That's a fair point. It's a fair point. This may get so Richie. Richie's comment actually will help us now. Differentiate between two different cases. Number one is that you are on autopilot, Oh, actually, I honestly think there are three cases. Two will be discussed here. One is that you thought it was the weekday. You I don't know, for whatever reason, you closed your eyes and it just completely slipped your mind that it's Friday night.
You wondered why the parking lot.
Why was the parking lot? I got a premium parking next to the rabbi's spot, and so that's one case. That seems a little bit. That may be for me a little bit harder to relate to. But there's the second case, which is the autopilot case, where you're just your mind is taken over, even though you're wearing a suit and you're in shul and it's everyone else is wearing a suit and you've davened you said you just sang the Shamru and somehow you just went into autopilot. Okay, and then the third case is that you were fully aware it was Shabbos, and the second and third case we're going to talk about what you all think about. Is there a difference? The third case is that I'm fully aware it's Shabbos, but it's almost like my mouth got ahead of my brain, and it started with Atachonen, and it didn't get very far. You'll see, and then I obviously catch myself, but I was fully aware that it was Shabbos, and the wrong words came out.
It wasn't. You didn't have kavanah.
Right. So let's keep those in mind now as we talk about these next few things. In the Mishnah Berurah here, he talks about Shel Shabbos. Okay, that you finish the bracha, then you begin the Shabbos bracha. He just gives us the obvious comparison here. V'hua did b'chol zeh le'inyan Yom Tov. Same thing upon Yom Tov. How you catch yourself, you operate the same way. Okay. Then by the way, very important to remember, what is the first word of the middle section of the Yom Tov Amida? This is by Shachar, Mincha, and Ma'ariv. Ata. Okay, remember that. Okay. Also, Ata, first word of the Friday night Shmona Esrei of the Amida, and the Mincha Amida. Ata Echad. Only on Shabbat morning we start with Yismach Moshe. Okay, you guys also have Yismach Moshe. Okay. So that is an important thing to remember here. Just file that away for about 5 minutes from now. Okay. Sif Katan Dalet. V'yesh omim to the Musaf. We had the machlok. The only machlokas that existed in the Shulchan Aruch was two opinions about Musaf. What happens if you catch yourself in the middle of Musaf? First opinion said finish the bracha on the weekdays and then begin with the Musaf middle section. Second opinion said stop right away and begin Musaf, the middle section of Musaf. So Mishnah Berurah writes, Sif Katan Dalet, the spirit of the Musaf lo shach klal tfilos v'ches brachos. You know why? Because we never had the 18 brachos or 19, whatever, the middle 13 brachos are not relevant at all ever at Musaf. If you're davening Musaf on Rosh Chodesh, where you did say a regular weekday Amida for it, you don't Musaf. The framework of 18, 19 brachos is not relevant to Musaf. It's irrelevant to what does it mean to finish it. It wasn't shy. It wasn't b'didhut. By the letter of law, there was no atachonen that was relevant here. There was no hashiva shoftim that was relevant here. They're all irrelevant to Musaf. Musaf, by its very nature, is focusing on the korban Musaf. It's the description of the korbanos that were given. That's the whole thing. Tikanta Shabbos to reestablish the idea of a Musaf. And then in the Yom Tov on Musaf, what do we say? Because of our sins, we were exiled. Therefore, we're not able to have the korban anymore, and we should bring us back, right? There should be, the three festivals, the Chag HaShabbat. Okay, so you get the point. Okay. Even on a weekday, Musaf, you say 7 brachos. So therefore, this opinion, which is held by Rabbeinu Yonah and the Rambam, say that you have to stop right away, right then and there, in the middle of the bracha, and then you start to the middle section of the Musaf. That's such a convincing opinion. You're like, I don't even understand what the first opinion was all about. So he goes back to explain that. The opinion according to the reason behind the first opinion, that you should finish the bracha and then go back to the beginning of the middle section of the Musaf. Because if you by mistake on a regular Musaf situation, you daven the Yudches Brachos, a weekday Shmona Esrei, Barak Hostikba, and you just add a formula that says and we shall do it before you, God, right? The obligations of the Timidei Yom, of the twice daily Korban Tamid, Uva Korban Musaf, and the Korban Musaf. If I just remember to stick that line in somewhere, Yotza, I have fulfilled my obligation of the Musaf Amida, Uchadaisa B'Ksif Dalet, which we're going to see in Sif Dalet. It's exactly those words. And on Shabbos, if I say a weekday Shemona Esrei of 18 brachos, say 19 brachos, and somewhere before I finish, I stick in the phrase, this phrase, I mentioned the Korban Musaf basically, Yotza. I don't have to go back and do Musaf again. So he says here, so therefore, therefore it appears that B'diavad, the weekday bracha is also still shayach in Musaf, even though it's only an after the fact situation. To me, this is a very weak argument. Legally, this is, I don't know. If I was the judge, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a judge, I don't know, I would kind of strike this down and be like, this is a little bit circular logic. You're saying that because if I make a mistake, that mistake is allowed if I add a particular formula to the mistake. Therefore, if I make a mistake, I can finish the mistake. It's a little.
Actually, what's up the time frame?
It's a completely different tefillah. Most of it is not at all like any of the other tefillos. It is a very unique.
But again, the idea that chakra has to be finished by a certain time.
Right, but correct. You could be in a no man's land. Also, from a it's a good point. From a Zmanim perspective, you could be in no man's land. It's after Zman for Shabbos. It's too early for Mincha. Right? There's no Zman. It's anyway. So take a look here at Stiff Katan Hay, which is the most important part of this.
Yeah, let's see what Hay says.
What was that? Say it again, Shlomo? It's an extra korban. Yeah. So that's why I should have given that background. Like on Rosh Chodesh or Shabbos, there's in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, it's in the Torah. They would bring an extra korban aside from the regular korban tamid. There was a tamid in the morning, tamid in the afternoon, and on Shabbos there was a korban musaf of Shabbos. Musaf means like an additional, right? Same would be for the Yom Tovim. Same, by the way, goes for Kol HaMoed. Anything we say musaf is because there was a korban musaf brought in the Beis Hamikdash. Okay, now how do we pass in the Shiloh? There's machlokas here. So the Mishnah Berurah says that the Achronim seem to agree with the second opinion that if you in the middle of musaf you catch yourself, you stop right away and you begin Hilchot Shabbat. Why? Mishum steak bracha levatala. Because it was machlokas a suffix of a bracha levatala, and a suffix bracha we always say lahakel. Don't actually say it. Don't do it if you don't. If you're not sure that it should be done.
It depends on. So if you started and you just start saying atachonin, it's one thing to stop there. Right. But what if you said Baruch Atah Hashem at that bracha, and now you can't stop? I mean, because when we're in that because at this point where we do that,
you may start Shem Hashem. You have to finish with the bracha.
You have to finish bracha, or you have to finish with a different bracha, right? I mean, we finish with different. Do that all the time. So he's clearly not talking about where you said Baruch Atah.
Probably not, because otherwise you're there.
Because you can't do it, right?
Because probably at that point you want to rely on the lenient opinion here and say that you are allowed to finish and therefore finish it, because otherwise. You bevadai said a bracha levatal, because you don't say a bracha levatal. You say atachor. Oops. Okay, I said 4 words that I shouldn't have said, which are an interruption to my Shemona Esrei, which is not ideal. But yeah, you're probably right. Probably if you're in the chasima of the bracha, you probably should finish the bracha.
What if you didn't say? What if
you didn't go there though?
What if you didn't say Shem Hashem yet?
Yeah, then no.
That's what I'm saying.
You can stop.
You don't finish the conclusion of the bracha.
If you've already got to the point where it's a bracha levatala, then just finish it. Then it's.
Which is come from the.
That's. I was thinking that. When he mentioned it, I was like,
I think you probably could. I think you probably could.
Because then it's not a bracha at all, and it's just a pasuk that I just said in the middle of my amida. Maybe that's a better suggestion, because I didn't even say a bracha. I said a pasuk. But it's a way to solve the scenario. It's a way to solve for it. It's not a bad suggestion. Okay. Yeah, Simeon.
Yes, Rav, please forgive me. Sometimes I can't hear the questions asked by some of the other students in the shiur. But it seems to me that here too I have a problem. We learn suffix midirabanan lekula safek midaraisa lechumra. What I don't know why they don't follow the consistency isn't there.
So suffix doraisa lechumra, suffix drabanan lekula is, you say, you're right, it's a general rule that we follow, because if we're not sure about a mitzvah from the Torah, we want to make sure that we get it right. If it's from the rabbis they gave up on their kavod. But here we're talking about using Shem Hashem. Now, I don't want to get into the parameters. Is that a doraisa? Is it a rabbanon? It's not good to use Hashem's name for no good reason. And so when we're talking about potentially doing something incorrect that involves God's name, like the bracha, so there's a rule, safek brachos lahakel, that there's a doubt about whether I should or shouldn't make a bracha. The scenario arises: I am eating. I'm in the middle of eating an apple. I'm halfway through, and because my life is autopilot and I'm just going through the motions, suddenly I realize, did I make ha'etz on this apple when I started eating it? I can't even remember. Do I make the bari? Because if I, under normal circumstances, if I know that I didn't make a bracha, I took a few bites, I took a bite of something, I didn't make a bracha, so stop and make the bracha, and then you continue eating.
You can do it in the middle of after you eat.
Not after. You still have to have more to eat in order to do that. So you can't be halfway through. You can't be done with the sandwich and then make the hamotzi. You can't do that. That's not. But if you're halfway through the sandwich, you can make the bracha. It's not ideal. You should do it before. But if you're halfway through this apple and you don't remember, did I make the ha'etz or I didn't? You don't make ha'etz because safek brachos lahakel, right? And then there's a lot of rules to determine, was I likely? Did I likely make the bracha? Did I not likely make the bracha? There's certain rules that sometimes you can apply about the frequency of brachos, the frequency in which you say things. But without getting into that, here is a question of, I caught myself, I'm in the middle. There's machlokas haposkim about this issue. We follow Lean's opinion, not to make the bracha use Hashem Hashem, because it may be that it's a bracha levatala.
Because you made it awesome. That's why it would be a bracha.
In the ha'etz case, in the apple, correct. Maybe I already made it, and therefore I have no obligation to say it again. And therefore, using God's name is completely unwarranted. Yeah. Okay. Hopefully that answers the question. That's why there's a rule by brachos that safek brachos lahakel, that we're always leaning when there's a doubt about whether to make a bracha or not. Okay. Sif Gimel, back upstairs in the Shulchan Aruch.
But this is like, what's the halacha? It's yesh means you don't know exactly what's the
opinion. Somebody wrote a paper once, an academic paper about when the usage of the Shulchan Aruch's yesh omrim, about does that mean paskins like the yesh omrim? It's not always. I don't know that there's a hard and fast rule.
So which one is the
which one did he follow?
No, which one should we follow?
Oh, so the Mishnah Berurah here says that everyone paskins like the second opinion, that you don't make the bracha.
Second opinion was
that you don't. That if you're in the middle, musaf, you stop where you are, and then you begin the musaf section. Okay. Gimel says, okay, now this is where some of you are going to get upset at me, but I'm just a messenger. Okay. If you thought that it was the weekdays, and you begin the middle section of Atachonin, because you're like, it's Thursday evening, and really it's Friday evening, but you're thinking it's Thursday evening. Okay. And immediately when you say the word ata, because of course the first word of the bracha is ata chonen, you catch yourself. Ata, oh, oops. Because I realized the autopilot was on. I had a moment where I started the word ata, and I noticed maybe not autopilot. Remember, better yet, forget autopilot. Let's not have autopilot. I'm thinking it's the weekdays, I'm whatever, and I say the word ata, and I niskar. Sorry, yeah, niskar. Ooh, it's Shabbos. Okay, be careful. Be careful what words you say. Kodem sha'amar chonen. I didn't say the word chonen yet though. I said ata, but not chonen. Okay. Havale hischil b'shachol. It is declared that I have begun a weekday bracha V'gomer osta bracha, and therefore I should finish the bracha of atachonen, and then I'll continue afterwards with Shabbos. Now, but aval, stay with me here. Stay with me. Aval im haya yodea shu Shabbos. I know it's Shabbos. I'm wearing a suit. I was just saying B'Shamru. I was thinking in my head a moment ago about the smell of the delicious food when I left the house. And I'm so excited to go home and eat a Shabbos meal. I'm fully aware it is Shabbos. Without intention, I start the word ata. Now, what is the first word of the Friday night davening in the middle section? Ata. So the same word. So, but in my head, I was on autopilot. This is maybe the case of that it was Shabbos. I know it's Shabbos was because I was on autopilot. I'm wearing a suit. I know the whole autopilot goes on. I know that after Hazkela Kadosh, the next words out of my mouth has to be Ata. And after I say the word Ata, I sort of catch myself in the autopilot. I know it's Shabbos. And I catch myself in the autopilot. Even if it's Shachris and I catch myself saying Ata. Oops, I know it's Shabbos. Eino gomer birchas ata chonen. Don't finish the bracha of ata chonen. Dechashvinan leiketa v'tfilas Shabbos bein zo lezo. This is relevant to the Shachris case.
I don't understand the difference.
Hold on, let me just finish this and I'll explain. So Friday night, ata. What mistake did I make? No one has to know. Same word. And I even had in mind that it was Shabbos. I was on autopilot. I know that I could see the word chonein forming on my mouth when I caught myself. But I knew it was Shabbos and I was just on autopilot. But if I meant Shachris starts with Yismach, not Ata. But if I catch myself after the word Ata in Shachris, I can claim the following. What happened? I got confused. I was starting to say Mincha. Ata echad b'shimcha echad. So to finish the bracha, I made a mistake between the two Shabbos brachos. And we're going to see a little bit later on that if I by accident didn't catch myself and I said the whole mincha, let's say the Shabbos mincha bracha during Shacharis, and I finished B'Kadesh Shabbos, I don't have to go back because it's all Shabbos. I should try to get it right. You shouldn't get these wrong. If you catch yourself, you should actually go back to the beginning of the middle bracha, and say the correct, nusach. But so if I say Ata at Shacharis, I don't have to finish and say Atachone. Why? Remember, Rama gives a little color to it. The Hare Yochol Lomar Ata Kidashta O Ata Echad, as I said a moment ago, because you could have said, well, I was just saying Ata Echad or Ata Kidashta. I got confused between Min Mariv and Shacharis or Mincha and Shacharis, and therefore you can get away with the crime.
The beginning
Yes.
doesn't make much sense.
Crime.
The beginning doesn't make sense because if I caught as after Ata, then not to say Nachonen, I obviously know it's Shabbos because otherwise I would have just gone on. So I don't understand the beginning when it says,
that you started on the weekdays. As I said to you, when I mentioned it, whenever it came up 10 minutes ago or so, I also said that's a case that's hard to relate to because maybe I davened too much on autopilot during the weekdays, and to be aware and to think it's the weekdays means that you were aware.
right?
And it's almost like you're not aware of your surroundings. I mean, if you're davening in shul, it's a lot harder to not be aware of your surroundings. It could be though. What if a person is davening b'yechidus? They're davening alone. They're by themselves. It could be in their house. It could be wherever they are, and they typically daven b'yechidus. And when they're not necessarily wearing a suit, and you're davening, and the greatest proof of this is that I don't know if anybody's ever done it before. You're davening on Friday night, and you're davening in the siddur from the weekday Ma'ariv section, and then you're Shomer Mo Yisrael La'ad, and usually by that point, I'm usually davening in shul. So if I ever have done that, first of all, the only mistake.
This is the true confession.
No, this is don't listen to YouTube. And then the only time you realize is that when do you realize it? When you get the Shomer Amo Yisrael Ad, and then the Chazan goes, Hapori Sukkah Shalom. Oh yeah, and you flip it, but maybe you're davening by yourself and you don't have the realization, and you're just whatever, and you're literally davening weekdays. And you're right. It's hard to imagine if after one word suddenly a light bulb goes off, and you're like, wait a minute, it's not the weekdays, it's actually Shabbos. Yeah, it's a hard case to understand, but
if you do realize it, then you just stop.
He
says you continue. I know
it's truly autopilot at that point, because then you normally do it because the first word you would normally say after the first three would be ata, and the fact that you catch yourself, at that point, I don't think it's so strange
that you're in weekday mode, and then
or that you were just in the normal mode.
Well, that's why I was saying this is going to be, we have to tease out the autopilot case. Is that the case of I was aware it was Shabbos? I would think that's what the autopilot case is, that I was fully aware it was Shabbos, and whatever. I'm used to saying after the word Hakel HaKadosh, Atachon. Oh, oops.
Well, yeah, but now you've done Chonei.
That's the next case. So that actually might make a difference if it's Cho or Chonei. Yes, we're going to talk about that. So this is the
idea is
Shlomo.
if you could come to that time, then you finish the bracha.
If you thought it was the weekdays, like you said, Ata, you finished the bracha. If you were aware that it was Shabbos, but without kavana, you started saying Ata, and the next word was going to be Chonei, but you stopped yourself. You were Atach, and then you your way out of that one. And the question is now, I was clearly going to say Chonei. I was clearly in weekday mode. So the rabbi, nobody has to know. It's Ata Echad, Ata Kidashta. Keep going. First of all, Friday night or Shabbos Mincha, what's the difference? Ata, and even by Shachris, he'll just say, "Oh, I was mixing up the Shachris and the Mariv Amida, so therefore not a problem. I could just continue Yismach Moshe v'Matnav Chelka."
Look, it also, I assume in almost all the cases, it's Shabbat. It's just that this is what you typically do. You're just doing it, and because to stop and think about, wait a minute, did I think it was Shabbat today, or did I think it was? I
think the case of thinking as a whole is really not one that comes up that often. Now, here's where it gets,
Don't look in the center for effort with it 6 times a week.
That's
times a day. They're saying that's
right. Well, we know it by heart. Right.
So even when you're looking, you're skipping in
Yeah.
your mind. But also look at the time when the original words were written. There weren't so many Siddur.
That's right.
People, that's why you had to Sibur do the
right.
repetition.
Correct. Yeah.
So these people really were dependent on it. Wasn't even I know.
Right. Yeah.
Only by heart.
Correct.
They could say it at all.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, Bruce. So, Simeon.
Yes, I think you and BJ were making a very key point. When you say the word Ata, especially by Mariv Friday night or by Mincha on Shabbos, it's the same Ata. You're referring to the Rabbanu Shalom. You're not making any shinui whatsoever. You're in the same. You're in the same mode. There's nothing different. If the world ended at that point, there would be no difference, no chiluk whatsoever.
I don't disagree with you, and I think that's exactly what the Mishnah Berurah is about to say. Yes. Take a look. Ready? Vav, Sif Katan Vav underneath. Take a look. Okay, ready? Amar Tevas Ata. I'm the base Yosef the Sphere. Eda Filu be'Arvis Mincha Shiyochel B'Sayim be'Ata Kidashta be'Ata Yacharib the base Yosef. This is the Shulchan Aruch. There's Rav Yosef Karo. He writes that even at Mariv and Mincha, where you're able to conclude the phrase that says, say Ata Kidashta or Ata Echad. Since your kavana was to do a weekday bracha, mikre hischil b'shachol, we call that starting for the weekdays, with the weekdays. The gomer birchas atachon, and therefore finish atachon. And that's where I thought it was the weekdays. The Hamagen Avraham, and here we go. The Magen Avraham is going to. The Magen Avraham argues here with the Shulchan Aruch and says, I don't agree with this, even the first opinion, first case. He says, you can only make a case at Shachris where this is relevant. Because you don't start with Ata, and then because he mentioned Ata, okay, now you can claim that it was for the weekdays. How can you can only make judgments based on words that come out of your mouth. And if all you've said is Ata so far, even though you apparently were thinking that it was Wednesday night, it doesn't matter. If you have the moment that of realization after the word Ata, even though you thought it was Wednesday night until the hay of the word Ata was completed, you can right then and there not stop. You can catch yourself and just continue with Kidashta or Echad, depending on if it's Mincha or Ma'ariv.
It's consistent with things that we say something.
Yeah.
We correct ourselves in the middle of the before we close it.
Yeah, we said the right word. We didn't say the wrong word even. The Yomar Ata Kidashta V'Ata Echad V'Chedas Aprim Megadim Aderachayim. So first of all, number one, the Magen Avraham does away with any issue of Ata as a weekday Ata at Ma'ariv and Mincha. Right after that, kicks that out and he argues with the Shulchan Aruch and says that's weak. Only at Shachris can you make such an argument. And so now he's limited that first case in to that just of Shachris from Esrei. Zion, v'shelo b'chavana. This is the case of autopilot. Wrote Salomar shenichsha b'lishono mechamas hergelo decho. I made a mistake in the language what I was saying because of hergelo decho. I'm used to it on the weekdays, so I just saying it. I actually didn't have in mind to be chol. I'm on the right page in the siddur where Ma'ariv Shmona Esrei, for Friday nights. I was on the right page.
He's saying different, Rav. I think respectfully, Avo lo hiskaven, but there is no intent with the recitation of that word to be chol or to be Shabbos. The word atah is second person referring to the Rabbanu Shalom, irrespective of anything else.
I think here he's talking about the state of mind, right? That the person was I was not intending this at all to be a weekday davening. That was not my intention to daven a weekday davening. And he says, therefore, I knew it was Shabbos. I'm on the right page in the siddur. And whatever, I'm so accustomed to saying the word Ata Chonein that it slipped out of my mouth. But I'm so aware it's Shabbos. I with no intention to daven a weekday davening. And if I just said the word Ata, then I'm good. If my intention was not for a weekday davening, I just say Ata. I got ahead of myself, but I caught myself before I said Chone. It was Ata, and I stopped. So, go ahead. Ata Kidashta, Ata Echad, or Yismach Moshe. Not a problem. Aval im Amar Ata Chonein. The word comes out. Chonein comes out of your mouth. Shemu l'shem chol. You can't tell me that wasn't for the weekdays. I know what you were thinking. Come on, I'm just used to saying atachone. You giving me a zetz over here for saying I'm used to saying it. I couldn't help myself. I was on the right page though. Gomer kol osa habracha. Sorry, finish the bracha, then you'll go back to whatever you're supposed to
say here. That seems a bit tortured to me. It just that because you said Chonein, that's what you're accustomed to saying. So you finish saying it because that's what we do. That's what we've seen in the previous halacha. But to say no, you're definitely in a whole state of mind. I think that you're not. It's just that you were continuing to do what you set out to do. So he's coming up with the same place anyway. But ascribing a certain state of mind to that, I just I don't see it. Particularly the way you said it, right?
So take a look. Yeah.
Thinking murder, unless you perform the act, you're not guilty of anything.
Right.
Would never be Judaism.
Right.
And much of the behavior in Shmon Esrei is related to the opening section of Shmon Esrei, where you really, the kavanah and everything is about that opening part of it, which every word counts.
You have to have kavanah in the first bracha, yeah.
So that long first bracha, it's like really in how it's said and everything.
Right.
So if you combine the two things, that one is if you think it but you don't do it, it usually doesn't matter in Judaism, and the kavanah is it's a little bit as you pass that opening. So I make such a gigantic
excellent point. The last three words of this Mishnah Berurah are very important. The ayin beveir halacha. It says, look at the beir halacha. So I did this. I followed his instructions. I said, look. I looked. And we're going to look at it, and then we're going to look at our Shulchan, because our Shulchan will take this one step further. And BJ and our Shulchan are friends on this one. Now, take a look here. It's a very lengthy one. We'll kind of the first part. Let's read kind of quickly. V'shalo be'chavana. Okay. Ayin b'mishnah berurah shekasav v'shenech shal b'shal v'hu b'trumas hadeshin ayin sham. This whole case is from the trumas hadeshin. U'ma shekasavnu avalim amar b'v'rab chulei ken kasu achron v'chein muchach b'trumas hadeshin shvel l'shano aval iyalo b'chavana ha'isnel b'tevas ata v'yada shahaya Shabbos hu v'lishna the iskil lay if you hear galo you made this mistake because of the you normally say it you say ata. Therefore, that's not considered a dvar taos. Because it's like what we just talked about here. So if you just said ata, you're good. And therefore, we can say, oh well, you just made an inter Shabbos mistake, right? Or an inter Shabbos mistake between two Shabbos and Shmon Esrei. Now the tevas ata gnami his chaschal the tefillah Shabbos. Even though the weekdays are really what caused this mistake, right? The weekday, they have used a weekday bracha there. Because I knew it was Shabbos, we don't call it starting the weekdays. Ad kan l'shon. That part we are very well aware. About kasha, here's where it gets the question. Since you made a mistake in the language. Even if you say atachone, might have it. What are you making me crazy for? You're calling us starting a weekday Shmon Esrei? Take a look at the Gemara in Shavuos. Daf Chaf Amud Aleph. But Gemara Mahu de Tema. What would I have thought? Lishna de Iskilale. Ayin Sham Ashma. What's mashra from that Gemara? The Kshenich Belshon, they're talking about Shavuos, like oaths. Okay? That it's the Kshenich Belshon, when you make a mistake in the words that come out of your mouth, Lu Nechshav with Tibor Klau. If it's something that comes out wrong, you're in the middle of taking an oath, and literally you slur two words together, so it actually makes the wrong. Actually, you're about to give an example. Take a look here. I don't have to give you the example. I'll give it to you. After Mishum Desham, Ba'inan Piv Libo Shavin. It's possible. The Afshar Mishun Desham, there, maybe your mouth and your heart were on the same page. Gabi Yesh Lechalek, and there you can even argue. Sham Halolo Ratza Lomar Klal She'i Ochel, that I won't eat Ela Shochel. That will eat. So you can say not eat or eat. If you slur the word together, you can say the opposite of whatever you were trying to say. I made a mistake. I said I won't eat because you paused. You took a pause in the word. I don't know. We don't. We're like, okay, we get it. That doesn't count. That doesn't register in the it's like a court in the American court system. You have a what's called a clerk who's literally it's a clerk or a
stenographer.
The stenographer is taking down every single word, and at a certain point, the judge will say, "Strike it from the record." Right? Mamish, it's gone. It was never said in the courtroom. Right? And the jury's reviewing it and going, "Where was I? I remember saying something." No. The judge, he struck that line. It's not there. The record is gone. If that's what happened, the record is gone in halacha, typically. And here it's even worse, or even better, depending on your perspective. Here I was just saying it because I'm just used to saying it. I said atachonim. I wasn't actually thinking. Rak gufa hayab below da shlema. I definitely was. Like when you're taking an oath, you're thinking about the words you're saying. Here, I'm on autopilot. I'm not even thinking. It's not b'da shlema. I'm not with full mind. I'm not thinking about the weekday Shemona Esrei. I'm not even thinking about anything. Right? Here it's even better. Here I know my heart and my words were not even matched up. Because my heart is not set, dead set on a weekday Shemona Esrei. Right? You know what I'm thinking about in my mind? I don't know, I can't before I left, before I came to shul, the score of the Yankee game was 2-1. I wonder, do you think he's still in the game, or you think that what's his name, Boone took him out already? He might be somewhere else. It's not even, you can't say your mind and your heart are in the words and the mind are in the same spot. But the Trumas Hadeshin brought his own proof, which was the genesis of this halacha. Of he says, you're gone, you're out, or you have finished the bracha, right? Here's proof was that if you know it's Yom Tov and you make a mistake and you say instead of Mekadosh Yisrael V'Azman, you say Mekadosh Shabbos by accident. Oops, which could happen, by the way, because there is some similar language there. And if you turn yourself into autopilot, at that point, the Amida, that could happen. That actually, I've made a lot of confessions saying that's actually never happened to me, but I could see it happening to me. Okay, I'm very honest about my weakness. Okay, but what am I allowed to do? Let's say I say Mekadosh Shabbos. Ooh, I have a realization right then and there. I can immediately switch it and say Mekadosh Yisrael V'Hazmanim. But what about the word Shabbos? I just said the word Shabbos. Bracha's over. No, strike it from the record. There's a rule called Toch Kedei Dibor. You catch yourself in the time it takes you to say Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Amori, you can strike it from the record and insert a new record. Okay? So he brings this as a proof. That's not called a mistake. Adkan Lashon Trumas Hadeshin Visham Tevas Mekadosh Shabbos Einam Shayachim Kol Yom Tov. Kamo Tevas Ata Sheshayach Lekidasha Afilu Hachi. Got to turn the page here. And even so, lo mikre taos v'havek lo amar hatevos klal. It's like it's struck from the record. It's not a mistake. It's gone. V'hachenami ki agavna. He says, but so that should be the same thing here. Why don't we strike it from the record? Ata chon. Ata kidashta. I should strike it from the record. It's such a quick realization. It's one thing if you tell me Ata chon adam datu. I got almost to the end, and now I have a realization. But so quickly, it should be. Therefore, he says sarich im. Now, which means look into it. And then we'll end with this. The Aruch HaShulchan says, I don't need to look into this. This is ridiculous. He quotes the whole case, so I'll skip that part for you. And he says, "Ve'ein hadahas no senes." He says, this doesn't add up. He said, literally, the logic doesn't add up to this conclusion. I knew it was Shabbos. Ela she'al pi ha'eder hakavona. My mind led me astray. Behilu chalosha, and because of the continuity of the way the words I'm saying. I go from Atakadosh, from Hakel Kadosh to Atachonin. Amar Atachonin. So lama yetzarich lachtom. What if I have to finish the bracha? But he says, L'chein nearly, but the truth is, he says, in my opinion, I feel hischeh b'kama tevos. You could do a few words. B'ki agavna mafsik v'omer shel Shabbos. Stop and just go back to the Shabbos Amida. V'atam shekosav lav dafka. The reason that was given is lav dafka. You catch yourself, and no, really, it's ata. You can flip the ata for the other ata, because that makes it sound like it's the word ata really matters. Because if I'm going to say that I start ata by shachris, Oh, well, it could have been I was doing a Marav Amida because I started Ata. And it really sounds like the word Ata is really Dafka here. So he's like, love Dafka. Don't get so bogged down. You don't have to look at the words Ata. You could have said Ata Chonen. Don't read it too much into this. Because they were dealing with the case of Ata, because that was the case that was on the table. So it's nice to say such a reason, because that's even better, right? Because I have the best reason, which is that was really a week. It's a Shabbos word too, Ata. But he says, don't get too bogged down in the details of it. That was just that particular case. It was teachers really that if you say Ata Kidashta at Shachris, you start saying Ata Kidashta, or you say Ata Echad at Shachris, it's not Ma'akid. You know, Memela Dehu Adin Ve'arvis Imamar Yismach Moshe or Ata Echad V'chein Mincha Kishamar Yismach Moshe or Ata Kidashta the Chol B'Shal Shabbos Echad, who it's really a teacher that they're all really one, even though they're different. It's all really one theme, and therefore, they're interchangeable. You should say the right one at the right time. But here it's clear to me, my reading in the Shulchan Aruch, the Aruch HaShulchan. By the way, the one last phrase he has in the halacha that we read, Shenishar b'sarachiyim. There he leaves it at b'sarachiyim. I don't think that the Aruch HaShulchan left it in b'sarachiyim here. I think he left this as very much that this is ridiculous. We have other times in halacha when if you make a mistake in the words that you say, where your heart and your mind, they use heart. I'm going to use the terms that we're actually controlling it. If our minds and our mouth are not on the same page, then it may be that what I said is completely irrelevant, because you have to be on the same page. Now, if I was on autopilot up here and I kept, okay, it is what it is. But according to Aruch HaShulchan, he's saying then you could stop wherever you are, which would render this whole discussion today, I'm sorry to say, that, we've talked about today the whole time, is completely irrelevant. And every time that you have this mistake, according to the Aruch HaShulchan, you should just stop wherever you are and begin the middle section of the Shabbos Amida immediately. Unless you're like BJ's case where you said Baruch Atah Hashem, and now you realize, then you probably should finish the bracha for sure and say Chonen Hadas or whatever bracha it's on. But so with that, I'll leave you. I think Aruch HaShulchan did give you a psak halach here. Though you see it's a machlokas. I think if you rely on the Aruch HaShulchan, you're in good standing. That's something that I've definitely done. Sorry, I made my mistakes. Correct. Yeah, I mean, look, his words were very. This is opinion. He's saying this is he's passing. He's giving a psak halacha here, and so I think that certainly the Aruch HaShulchan to rely upon if you ever theoretically find yourself in such a situation.
So isn't the Chafetz Chaim copping out when he says v'tzarech iyun? I don't want to. Look, I think the Chafetz Chaim had it. What he was difficulties struggling with is that why didn't the Shulchan Aruch? Why does the Shulchan Aruch engage in this question? If you have the Trumas Hadeshen, which is what the halacha is even based on, why is he engaging in this? If you have this, this general rule that when you were saying even an oath, and the thing comes out wrong, you can fix it because it was clearly your mind and your mouth were not on the same page. If they're on the same page and you didn't do the right thing, that's your own problem. Now you have to deal with the fact that you have a shvua that maybe you didn't want to take. But here you're clearly not on the same page. Your mind is, I know it's Shabbos, but the mind took over.
There's so many other things that come that you can hear when they make other rules.